David, so how did you come to know Scott and his course?
Yeah. So I I met Scott through a secret, private, closed group of copywriters. Others have probably talked about called the Gonk, and he was one of the people there. And uh, in the group, he wouldn't say very much. And when we would get all heavy and philosophical, he would put in a link to a Simpsons cartoon or something. I mean, it's just real lighthearted. So then I can't remember how long ago, maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, this whole group was going to. Yeah, so I don't remember exactly when I met him. I think it was 4 or 5 years ago. This group I'm in, we were all planning to get together in San Francisco for no particular business or results oriented reason. It was basically just to get together and hang out. And I'd actually prepaid reservations at the hotel where we were going. And one by one, every single other person peeled off, had some excuse that they couldn't make it, except Scott. Mongo did come. He didn't stay at that hotel. He stayed at another one on Van Ness Avenue near the bay. And so we had that meeting minus 12 other people. Okay. And that was the first time I met him. And he's a wild man. I mean, he's sort of mild mannered, but he'd been driving down from Oregon that day on Highway 1 with his girlfriend in this rental car on this very this road with a huge cliff off to the right hand side and no guardrail. I mean, just daredevil kind of stuff, Right. And so we met at his hotel, and he said, "Well, where's the closest bar?" And I said, "I don't know." And we walked up the street, and you're not going to believe this, but there's this place called Hose, and it was a Chinese restaurant and bar. It's since been reinvented as a yuppie kind of fern bar, also called Hose, but the price of the drinks has gone up by like 300%. But anyway, we went there, we were hanging out, and I think that was the first time I met him. And so I came around dinner time, and we must have sat and talked and drank for 6 hours. And it was one of those lifetime conversations. And honestly, I don't remember much of what we talked about, but it was wonderful. It was deep. I remember at one point in the conversation, I was looking at his face, and I was reminded of Orson Welles. I think it's Orson Welles. Who's the guy who did the Parmesan commercials? We will serve no wine before it's time. I believe that's Orson Welles.
I'm not sure.
Anyway, I could just see this deep well of emotion underneath the surface that he almost never revealed in speaking, but it was in all over his face, and we really connected. We had a great time. His girlfriend didn't say much. She was just sort of fascinated by this bizarre conversation these two copywriters were having.
Right.
And from there, we became much better friends. I mean, it's just the way it works. You have a face-to-face meeting, someone and you click, and you become a better friend after that. And one thing I noticed about him, I do. So his course, in this secret society of Gonk, there are three people who have courses: me, Carlton, and Scott. And those were the only three at the time that Bond and Kevin gave the Halbert seal of approval to and recommended and sold.
Right.
I also promoted the course to my list at one point, and I don't. I think we made a lot of money. I think we might have made something like $11,000, and split up per the affiliate agreement. And I think it's a really great course. One thing I'd like to say about Scott is, well, most great copywriters are unique in some way. He was unique in the way that he didn't care much for facts or for opinions. I'm not sure he had a lot of opinions. He may have. He didn't really share them with me. A lot of copywriters I know really just love to spout off about this politically or this socially or this globally or this particular event. I never heard Scott talk that way at all. What I did hear, and I realized this, before he left us, I realized this about him, is you start talking to Scott and it's stories. It's one story after another. True stories. I mean, factual stories. Right. Again, there weren't a lot of opinions. There wasn't a lot of manufactured drama. A lot of these stories were very dramatic because he led a very dramatic life. I remember one time, Scott was quite an athlete and quite a martial artist. And he told me about this time he was in a bar. And for some reason, unknown to him, he was minding his own business. Some guy comes up and he hits him from behind. And Scott talked about how he took the guy, threw him against the wall, and hit him, and how he pulled back at the last second with the punch because he didn't want to crush the guy's skull.
Right.
I believe that he wasn't exaggerating, that he just had that level of, we would call it sensory acuity, right? Awareness, micro-awareness in the moment. So he was very observant, and believe me, most of the stories he and I had were not about fighting.
Right.
they were just about everything going on in life.
Oh, and by the way, all his hometown buddies confirm all those stories about bars and stuff.
Oh, yeah. Well, I'm sure there were more. I'm sure there were more. But he's not the kind of guy who would go looking for a fight. No. But he was a street fighter. And my definition of a street fighter is a guy who doesn't start fights, but the guy who finishes them.
Yep.
Yeah. But so one thing, I was thinking about him as a writer, and he was a great copywriter. No doubt about that. I think he would have also have been a great novelist because he was a craftsman. He was a superb craftsman. I mean, when we talk about the letter we're going to talk about later, I'm going to point out how I see that and why. He would have been not a writer like a, like who's the guy? I forget his name. Who the real flashy guy, Elmore Leonard, or he wasn't. He wasn't that kind of writer. He was more like a Truman Capote or a Lawrence Block. I mean, it's not like he wasn't factual. It's like he dug out a lot of facts. He perceived the world in a very straightforward way that quote unquote normal people could relate to. I think he knew he was good, but I don't think he ever thought. I think he was a humble man. I don't think he ever thought he was, a god walking on this earth or anything. Right. And he looked at the world that way. I think that's why his copy worked so well, because he didn't have to manufacture a personality to become an ordinary guy. No. He was an ordinary guy with extraordinary craft, extraordinary skills. And his course was like that too, of course. That's why Gary made everyone, I'm guessing, I never talked to Gary about this, but he left no stone unturned. As it did in his copy, he also did that in his course. He was just very thorough and patient and would explain things in simple, straightforward ways that any person who was willing to give it the attention it needed could understand.
Yep. And what would you say to someone that has never experienced his course and is just finding out that it's going to be available soon?
I would say, if you're tired of the flash and the dash and, all of the complicated formulas and the difficult concepts, and you'd just like to have some, very accomplished, reasonable guy sitting across the table from you at a diner or at a Starbucks, and you want to know how to do every piece of copywriting and how to string it all together to make a winning sales letter, this is the course.
Hey, this is Big Jason. So what's included with Shortcut Copywriting Secrets version 2, and how do you get it? All right, so number 1, you're going to get Scott's original Shortcut Copywriting Secrets course. You're going to get his original Hottest Sales Letters, Volume 1. Plus, you're also going to get his missing magic order form. In Volume 1 of his Hottest Sales Letters, he mentioned an order form that he lost that worked like magic for a promotion he did for Gary Halbert. Well, I found it and you're going to get it. Plus, you're going to get the all-new Hottest Sales Letters of Volume 2. This is over 200 pages of home runs, including 4 controls. 3 of the controls are still running today because his longest running client can't find anyone who can beat Scott still today. All right, so who's going to be breaking these ads down with me? Clayton Makepeace, John Carlton, David Deutsch, Adam Carroll, Colin Chung, David Garfinkel, Brian Kurtz, $1 Million Mike Morgan, Harlan Kilstein, Kevin Rogers, Sammy Markowitz, Caleb O'Dowd, Bon Halbert, and many more. All right, so how do you get your hands on Shortcut Copywriting Secrets version 2? Well, you go to shortcutcopywritingsecrets.com and get on the wait list because I'm going to be releasing this very soon. All right, and once you opt in, you're going to get a very special recording from a expensive Gary Halbert seminar. I found this in a promotion that Scott wrote for Gary. I was cleaning out his apartment here in Austin for his family, and it's a killer message from No Sex Gary, a real honest-to-God way to get rich with direct marketing, okay? So you're going to get that just for opting into the wait list. All right? And then on the thank you page in the welcome email, there's going to be a link for my private Facebook group for Shortcut Copywriting Secrets version 2. Join that because I'm going to be releasing some rare audios and interviews and some information that I found in Scott's stuff that's really cool that I'm not going to release anywhere else. So once again, this is Big Jason. Thank you so much for helping me continue Scott's legacy. I really appreciate it. It means a lot to me. Scott was my best friend. So go to shortcutcopywritingsecrets.com and I'll see you there.
Sure, actually. So I got into response in 2001 and stumbled upon this whole world of direct response, and I got really drawn to copywriting in particular. So I started studying Gary Halbert, the Gary Halbert letter, actually, old cassettes that I still... Yeah, sure, absolutely. So that's the copy right here. The Gary Halbert Masterpiece Collection is next to it. Kick-Ass Copywriting Secrets is next to it.